Cool.
Great.
Hi,
Wow,
Freddie.
I like your backdrop.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I painted that a little while back. That's my logo.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Try to
Kansas
keep it
City?
colorful. So,
Is that
yeah.
Kansas City?
Yeah, Kansas City, Missouri. Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Where are you located?
Cool. Oh, there was a little bit of a drag
Oh,
there.
was there? Where are you located?
Well, I'm visiting my daughter in Bolinas, California.
Okay.
But basically, I live in the Bronx, in Riverdale, the Bronx. And, you know, where Archie went to high school.
Okay.
In the Archie comics.
Yeah. Right on, man.
Anyway, but right now we're in like paradise, you know, like hippie paradise, man.
Looks
You know?
like it. Yeah, I saw the trees behind you there. Yeah, that's a pretty good world to be in.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, I mean, you walk down the block and you get whiffs of all these different smells, like flowers from bushes and eucalyptus trees, and I mean, it's crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
was out. I went to California last summer, and yeah, everything's just different, especially coming from the Midwest, because New York tends to have kind of the same weather patterns that we do here in
yeah,
Kansas City. So when you get to
yeah,
somewhere like California, all the foliage and everything is just different.
yes. It's crazy with all the you know, the cactus and the succulent plants, but also where we are here is like crazy cold.
Oh, wow.
Do you know that expression from Mark Twain?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds
The,
familiar.
co-
Yeah,
the coldest winter I ever had was a summer in San Francisco.
right. That's right.
And so the first couple of days, the fog was in and it was really cold. Then the last 3 days, the fog rolled out. It's been blue skies, but seriously like cold wind.
Wow.
But you know, if you go out and you play tennis, you know, you're gonna get hot and everything like that. But
Yeah.
it's not like, you know, and you can't go in the water unless you have a wetsuit
Yeah,
or
I
just
bet.
for like a split second. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
right.
You
Yep.
know, so so
Cool, man.
it's pretty different than what people Easterners think of. You
Yeah.
know they think, you know, L.A. beaches hanging on, you know,
Yep.
just, you know, Pamela Anderson.
Absolutely. That's the image. That's the
Yeah,
image. But it's a
this
different
is
story.
different, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool though. It's a surfing community, and my son-in-law, he surfs every day. You know, and
Right on, man. Well, cool. Well, it's great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a minute out. And before we get into the brand new release, what I would like to talk to you about a little bit before we get the Upper West Side love story. How did you get through COVID? You know, that was quite a thing. We're coming out of it. How did you get through it as a musician, and how does it feel to have a release out now?
well, amazing. And I, how did I get through COVID? Well, I wrote this piece, you know, and but you know, I don't really want to talk about it too much because it makes me feel a little guilty. But I had the best circumstances that I could ever imagine in terms of the COVID thing. It was, first of all, I was teaching online, you know, and but then we bought tickets to go to the Caribbean on March 11th, and on March 12th was the state of emergency, and they decided to close the country the next weekend, and we stayed. Um, we had a place there which we rent out, you know, and so I had never been there more than a week, more than 10 days, you know, and so we stayed there because we had all our guests, all our reservations had to cancel, and the country was closed, and we had the same bills in both places. You know, we could pay the same bills from New York or from there.
Yeah.
So really, I was blessed to be in that place and still be able to work as a Berkeley professor. Um, and then, you know, I did a little bit of music. Obviously, what was really, you know, challenging was the fact that I didn't get to play with anybody. You know, it was only the occasional solo concert online. I recorded a concert for the Miami International Guitar Festival. That was really nice. I learned how to do a 2-camera shoot. And it was a whole hour concert for this festival, which is like a classical guitar festival, but they have a little bit Brazilian, a little jazz, a little flamenco, to spice up the classical guitar programming they have. So that was great. And so how the universe works in mysterious ways. It really allowed me to focus on my guitar playing, and also the composition, and also the writing and the lyrics, which I had never done before. So, it was a huge growth spurt that, really could only have happened if I either lived the way I normally do, which is by deadline and doing massive amounts of all-nighters. Like just constantly like, oh my God, I have to finish this and write. And then you run to a gig and then you do this and you do that, you teach and you do, that craziness of New York. This was like, people get these artist, colony kinds of retreat grants sometimes. Go to this beautiful place and all you have to do is write your music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did that once for a week. I think it was a week, maybe it was 2 weeks in California, not so far from here. Berkeley grant, artists doing their stuff, writers and musicians, and it's like paradise, but that doesn't happen much because most of the time you have to live life. And so this was like as everybody felt, like a forced stop, and luckily I had really great situation, yeah, I can say just be blessed by that, Now I'm back in New York and I'm doing my normal all-nighters and run to gigs and teach and do that stuff, so now it's back to normal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've written a lot of stuff in the past, but I know this was a different kind of vibe,
And you got a lot of heavy hitters on this album. How did you assemble everybody? How do you feel like it all came together?
Well, I was also lucky again with getting a grant from the Chamber of Music America. And I've been trying to get that grant for, it seems like decades. It's really hard to get those kind of things. And so the only requirement they had besides submitting your music was to, in the final round, they want to know you're a band, and so that helped, I'm sure, in the final round. But in the beginning, they just listened to the music. But you have to tell them who's going to be on the recording. And if there's more than 50% subs, they won't give you the money. So, if you get, so many famous people and they change their mind and they get busy, then, you're out of luck, But it was challenging to get them all together in one place to do these 3 concerts and then a couple, bunches of recording dates. Really challenging. It's like there was only one date between September and December when all of them were in New York at the same time that could do it, So, so anyway, I mean, yeah, that was a challenge, but I had to, so because I did the grant, I had in my mind the personnel, and the personnel is usually an organic thing because I had worked with Donny, I had worked with Steve, I had worked with Regina, never all 3 together. Actually, well, there's one track on one record where Steve plays flute and Donny's on there, but then when with Regina, I knew that there was a Detroit connection with Carla Cook and Regina. They're both Detroit icons, And then Gwen Laster, the violist, she's also from Detroit. I played on her record and with her, and I had recently played with Akua Dixon on her record. So I knew that those three string players fit together. You know, they knew each other personally. They love each other. They like each other. You know, like, you know, so it was good musically and personally. Yeah, and the rhythm section just fell into place. You know.
Yeah. Well, this comes from personal experience of you watching the Upper West Side, correct?
Yes, yes. I also interviewed 20 plus people before I wrote the lyrics. So obviously I had are we in the interview part?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is all going.
Okay.
This is like jazz improv, man. We're just
There you
going in.
go.
We're riffing.
Okay, man. Well, feel free to edit out my ums.
Oh no, we're good. Yeah, yeah. We'll make it sound good.
Cool. Anyway, man. So you know, I had what was your last question? Sorry.
You this comes from a lot of personal experience of you
Okay.
watching the Upper West Side.
Right. Right. So at the time I got the grant from Chamber Music America, which partners with Doris Duke Foundation. I should say their names, because I'm very grateful to get that opportunity from them. After I got that, it coincided with the end of a 3-year battle with new landlords that were trying to evict us from the home I grew up in. My mother, my father, even my grandmother all passed away in that apartment. I was living there taking care of them. And, you know, when investment landlords come in to the Upper West Side or any place that's becoming gentrified, they see an opportunity to, use the legal system to make the rent controlled apartment available so that they can sell it. Eventually, after we gave up, it sold for $2.3 million. And this was a place, on the Upper West Side. It was an old rent-controlled place, pre-war building, kind of falling apart on the inside because they want you to leave, So you have $1 million apartment right next to you, and then your apartment has, no tiles and, no paint job, that kind of thing. I mean, it was, so that was immediately where I was going with this piece. I knew I wanted song to be involved to tell the story rather than it just be audio, instrumental. But then I realized, this is a big subject. It's not just about me. It's about the neighborhood, but also it's an international and national story around, I'm probably in Kansas City. I know, LA and Atlanta and various places, and definitely London and Paris and Berlin, they're experiencing similar things, where the neighborhood changes. And it's not necessarily a bad change, it's just a change, but there are, let's call them victims or people who have to move, basically people who can't stay because of the expense of staying there or something like that. So I thought that this would be an interesting thing, not just for me, not just telling my own story. So, I wanted also to talk about the history of the neighborhood, so I talked to lots of musicians that, lived in the neighborhood. I talked to family friends of my parents, of a different generation who moved in the 50s and the 60s. Got a different perspective of the neighborhood. Now, I didn't really necessarily want to write a scientific, treatise on the neighborhood. Like, this is the neighborhood. This is just, kind of personal feelings and some stories. So I definitely borrowed some stories in the lyrics. You know, um, if we can get there at some point, but it's an extensive set of lyrics, 16 songs, and 92 minutes of music. And so the concert was for Act One and Act Two. So like you're seeing a show.
Yeah.
And the beginning, the first CD is a lot about childhood and family and growing up. And the second CD is a lot about, the change in the neighborhood, homelessness. Um, there's a big piece there about Robert Moses called Moses Was a Pharaoh. Robert Moses was the power broker. He was really in charge of changing the city in the way it looks like today, with highways and parks and projects like, very good projects like Lincoln Center. And Lincoln Center replaced a neighborhood called San Juan Hill, which 7,000 people, 7,000 families, and 800 businesses had to leave.
Yeah.
So that was really, a huge change. And the Upper West Side is a lot of different neighborhoods. It's not just one thing,
Yeah.
So, you have a lot of influences. So, I really wanted to get some other people's perspective on it.
Yeah. So what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy that the music turned out so well with these great musicians, that the lyrics, Carla Cook is like the MVP. She sings so beautifully and so expressively and so clearly. When I'm doing some of these videos for YouTube to try to, put a video with the release, I really don't have to put any subtitles because she, really you understand everything she's saying. So I think that people, even just hearing one song, are going to understand and feel the emotion and beauty of the music. So that's the first thing, that people enjoy listening to the music. And I'm happy that I try this every once in a while. I play it on random order. So, so just because it was a show from beginning to the end, but if you listen randomly, it's good too. Like one song here, one song there, which is the way people listen most of the time these days. So I'm not expecting everybody's going to listen to 92 minutes of music, but it's there if they put it on, and it flows,
Yeah.
So first, that the audience and the listener, just enjoy themselves with the grooves and the melodies and the playing and the lyrics. And secondly, with each song, there's a message, there's a vibe. If they sort of go beyond the music and feel that vibe, feel the message, feel the story, that's great. Now, if they go further and take it as a piece, they'll feel hopefully like you're at a show, like there's a beginning and midpoint, and there's a climax, and there's an end, there's a denouement, as they say, and really feel it like that. So it's daunting in this day of short attention spans.
Yeah.
And but I did make tracks shorter.
Yeah.
How did I do that? Well, there are introductions, like a solo guitar introduction, before we used to dance. Everybody loves the introduction, but for the single, I cut the introduction. I didn't cut it out. It's there, but it has a separate track listing.
Yeah.
So you can start from the up-tempo son cubano kind of Latin jam,
Yeah.
and instead of having the rubato kind of melancholy, ruminating kind of guitar in the beginning. Same thing with some other tracks, solo, the strings play at the beginning of. Oh, by the way, this Friday is the release of the 5th single, Love Can't Live on Nostalgia. And that one starts out with a string introduction, which has its own track. So the single starts from when the rhythm, it's a bembe from Cuba. So it's like a 6/8 rhythm, kind of really up tempo, starts from there. But so I even, there's one song called called A Walk in the Hood, and that's actually 3 songs in one. It's kind of like a medley, so it's kind of long, like 11 minutes or something like that. So, but in the middle, it shifts gear, boom, into a funk groove.
Yeah.
So at that point, so that's a track, so now we have a shorter track for people to listen to. But then, of course, hopefully people, if they want to, can listen to the whole thing. And that song, A Walk in the Hood, takes you from Thelonious Monk walking around the neighborhood and introduces you to a lot of the characters and people, that places he might have walked. And then it goes into something that's more like, from my experience and from other people's experience, of people I interviewed, also with a lot of names and a lot of character musicians, people who grew up there, and then ends in the 70s, kind of funky thing. So anyway, that's how I'm looking at it. It's a 92-minute thing, but each little part hopefully stands alone.
Yeah. So when's the official release date? Where's the best place for people to pick it up?
Well, the release date for the whole CD is July 7th. And according to my record company, it's available everywhere online. Yes. I've been circulating Spotify and Amazon Music links, but I think it'll be on Apple Music and other ones too that I actually am not familiar with. And then, of course, there is going to be a very limited run of actual CDs. So those CDs will be sold through my website. You can find it through there. I have an Etsy store. But that's I grew up in the 20th century, so I love physical copies, and I did, I spared no expense. I commissioned an artist to recreate this playground that was on the corner of my street from 1968 to 72. It was a beautiful playground, amazing, of found objects that an organization, not the city, put in. And there was a real fire engine from the 60s or maybe in the 50s. And there was a real 8-passenger lifeboat. There were these bollards, these huge things that you tie up, ships to. I mean, like, we're talking, cruise ships. They were that big, and they were painted as sailors. There's a black sailor and a white sailor. There was these beautiful murals of the Puerto Rican flag, but also the Puerto Rican revolutionary flag, which looks very much like the Dominican flag. I thought it was the Dominican flag my whole life until the artist did some research and said, no, this is the Puerto Rican revolutionary flag.
Wow.
A boat and everything painted. So, and of course, a handball court. So I commissioned her to do this, and so that's part of the artwork. There's also a 16-page booklet with all the lyrics. I know anybody can go to upperwestsidelovestory.com and read all the lyrics, and even read notes about the lyrics, because I put notes about what the songs are about, and also even some links to some stories about the Upper West Side that connect to the lyrics. So upperwestsidelovestory.com. And, you know, so I would say that CD is going to be a collector's item because it costs a whole bunch to print up.
Yeah.
If there's demand, I'll print up some more. But in general, they'll probably be gone pretty soon.
Yeah. Freddie, hey man, thank you for opening up about this project, taking time out. I really appreciate it, and best of luck with it.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.